If you are interested in learning more about the Wisconsin School of Businesses, MS and Supply Chain, you have come to the right place. Today, we are going to learn more about this new degree with an expert. My name is Randy Parvin, Assistant Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the full-time MBA and MS programs, and the host for this podcast. Our guest today is Jake Dean. Jake is the Director of the Grainger Center for Supply Chain Management at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he was integral in the planning, introduction, and implementation of the new MS and Supply Chain that we have here. Welcome, Jake.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, well, and Jake, why don't you tell everybody about your professional background and your role here at the Wisconsin School of Business?
Sure. So I have been working in supply chain management since the early 2000s. I started off my career in retail supply chain planning and retail distribution management. Then I actually came to the Wisconsin School of Business and got my MBA in supply chain management. So I graduated with that in 2009. Then I left to go into the working world again and spent some time in the technology supply chain. So I worked at Cisco in the Bay Area in California for a number of years, again in supply chain planning, and then in supply chain acquisition integration, which was really entertaining. My role here at the Wisconsin School of Business, as you said, I'm the director of the Grainger Center. So within that, we currently have an MBA program in supply chain. We have an undergraduate program in supply chain. I lead those from a strategic perspective. I work with our students on advising. I do some teaching. I work with our advisory board and with our industry partners. So it's a role that's really focused on bringing the industry perspective into the academic world.
Okay, super. Well, I know everyone's listening and wants to know more about this MS and supply chain, but for those who don't, can you give us just a broad brush or what is the field of supply chain in the area of business?
Sure. It's a great question because unlike the more well-known areas of business like marketing and finance and human resources, a number of people, I think, have a basic knowledge or think they have a basic knowledge of what those disciplines are. Supply chain is a little less well-known, hasn't really been recognized as a discipline for more than maybe 20, 25 years. So one of the nice things about that is that it is constantly evolving, and one of the but not nice things about it is there isn't a great standard definition of what supply chain is. We talk about this a lot for those of us in the discipline. But if you want to think about everything, all the activities that are necessary between taking raw materials out of the ground and delivering a final product to a customer, everything that happens in between those 2 points, the management and orchestration of all those things is supply chain management, as is the finances that goes along with all those things, and as is all the information that goes along with those things. So all those processes, all those teams, all those people, internal to an organization and external, involved in the coordination of material and services from raw materials to end customers receiving their goods. That is supply chain management.
I would guess, Jake, this field has really expanded in the last few years or last 20 years. Is that true?
Absolutely. As it has become known as a field and as companies have realized there's a lot of value to be harnessed in the coordination of those activities, supply chain has become a very growing field. Most of the activities that are encompassed by supply chain have been going on for ever.
Yeah.
Purchasing has always been a thing, so is forecasting, so is distribution. But it's been over the last 25 years that companies have realized they have to look at those things holistically and manage them as one interconnected piece rather than as groups of individuals, where supply chain has really come and shown its value as a business function.
Okay. I know this is a new program, the MS in Supply Chain at the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Business. Well, tell folks some highlights of the program, the length of the program, how many credits it is, those type of things.
Sure. So it is a 1 academic year program, so you would start in September and graduate in May, so 2 semesters. It is 30 credits, 21 credits of which are prescribed to all the students, and then 9 credits of which are electives. In addition to the academics of the program, we have an applied learning curriculum where we bring in industry leaders or go on site visits or work on professional development. We have some global trip opportunities. So it's a very well-rounded supply chain program that would take place over the course of an academic year.
Okay. Are there prerequisites to get in? If I want to start tomorrow, do I need to have, what's my background need to be?
So it would be great if your background had some sort of business education somewhere in it. Either you have a business undergrad or you've taken some business courses, or you are able to register in the summer before starting here in an introductory business course here at UW-Madison. We would like some sort of business education prior to students enrolling in the program, just so they know or have some grounding as to where they would fit in an organization.
Okay, all right, good to know. And one of the most important questions, I know you said folks coming out of this degree will work in the supply chain. Are there specific titles of positions that people can envision themselves in as coming out that you could talk about?
Sure. So positions, the titles would be supply chain analyst, purchasing analyst, commodity manager, analytics manager. So supply chain, as we talked about, is very broad. So the normal sort of classifications of supply chain work are within planning, sourcing, making, and delivering. So planning is forecasting, sourcing is purchasing, making is putting things together, and delivering is getting stuff to customers. So there are entry-level roles in each of those different functions that our students would likely find themselves in.
Okay, and so and is there career support for these folks?
Absolutely. Like? So that's one of the things that the Grainger Center does for all of our students is support connecting our students with our employer partners. In addition, there is central support offered by the Graduate Program Office. So we have a great two-pronged approach to student support from an employment perspective.
Okay. And if I want to learn more about the program, how can I learn more? Any ways to do that?
You can give me an email or a call, or there's stuff at wsp.wisc.edu. There's a specialty masters section of the webpage there.
Okay.
That's explained pretty well there. But myself or our admissions team are certainly available for one-on-one discussions if anybody has any more detailed questions.
All right. And is there anything that I haven't asked you today that I should have that someone out there looking at MS and supply chain degrees would have?
Yes, actually there is.
Yeah, I was hoping so.
Good. So I talked about the classic pillars of supply chain are plan, source, make, and deliver. And you should find those in any supply chain curriculum that you'd be looking at. One of the things that we add to those things is an appreciation for where your demand is coming from and what your customers want and how they want to be served. We have all of our students take a course in what's called marketing channels, which is really an education on how do you design your supply chain such that it fulfills your customers' needs. So if your customers are, if you're in a business-to-business environment and you have accounts registered and you have a strategic relationship with between partners, that's a different sort of supply chain than a transactional sort of retail supply chain where you have no real relationship with who you're buying from. Similarly, there are some products where consumers are used to buying them direct from their manufacturer. So I think we've all seen Apple stores. In that case, Apple has a great relationship directly with its customers, and they have a supply chain that goes from their facilities, their manufacturing facilities and distribution facilities directly to their customers. That's not how most of us buy our groceries, or that's not how most of us buy a car. For those products, you are dealing with an intermediary. You have to go, in the case of a car, you have to go through a dealer. In the case of your groceries, you're going through a grocery store. You're not buying those things directly from a product or from the producer. So the supply chain that delivers those products is going to look very different based on the delivery expectations of the customer. So we make sure in our curriculum that there is coursework that makes students appreciate the differences between those distribution channels. There is also coursework in our curriculum that hits on the IT side of supply chain, from an analytics perspective and from what's called an enterprise resource planning perspective. We want to make sure our students understand how to manage the information that goes back and forth in a supply chain, because as you can imagine, when you're orchestrating all of the planning, sourcing, making, delivering, and all that stuff between various partners, there's a lot of information that goes back and forth, and it's important that companies manage that information for competitive advantage. So we have courses in that as well. So I think those are two different things that are good additions to our program in terms of who are your customers, how do they want to be served, and then how do you deal with all the information you're getting in addition to the plan, source, make, deliver traditional supply chain curriculum.
This is interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And one final question for you. You and I have both been on the campus at University of Wisconsin-Madison for a number of years. And I know most of the courses are going to be in Grainger Hall, which we're sitting in today. It's a beautiful place. But if someone's not from Wisconsin or has never been on Madison's campus, anything you suggest that they should do or see if they come for a visit about this program or come to attend the program?
Well, they should certainly come for a visit because this campus is among the nicest university campuses that I have seen in the United States. I have traveled around to a number of them in my role, and we're on a lake. We are close to downtown. We are really in the center of the city, and it is not often that you get a campus that is so nice and so centrally located, but also right on a lake where you can just, and sit and relax there and with your fellow students or faculty members after class and just and be so close to everything that Madison has to offer. So coming and just seeing the vibrancy and seeing how central this campus is to the community, I think is a really important thing for students to do.
I would agree with you 100%. Well, Jake, thanks for visiting about the Master's in Science and Supply Chain with me today.
You're welcome. Thanks, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thanks, everyone, for listening. And as we say in the Wisconsin School of Business and Madison, together forward and on Wisconsin.